All right, buckle up, everybody, because today we're diving deep into the world of Ubisoft.
One of the giants, yeah.
A true titan of the gaming world, wouldn't you say?
Oh, absolutely.
From their very unexpected beginnings to, well, blockbuster hits and some of the bumps they've had along the road.
It's a wild ride, their story.
It really is. And I think it's a story a lot of people think they know, but there's a lot more to it.
Yeah, definitely more than meets the eye.
More than just Assassin's Creed. And,
Oh, way more.
yeah, so let's rewind a bit, right? Back to the start.
Back to the beginning.
Humble beginnings, as they say.
Humble is putting it mildly. I think a lot of people would be surprised to find out that Ubisoft actually started out.
Selling fertilizer.
You know it. Like, straight up. Farm supplies.
It's hard to imagine, right?
It's true, though. The five Guillemot brothers, it all started with them running a family farm supply business, and get this, in rural France.
Rural France to, well, the global stage of video games.
That's a hell of a journey.
It is, but even back then, savvy businessmen, these brothers.
Oh, incredibly savvy.
They saw the rise of home computers, video games, early 80s.
They had this, I don't know, sixth sense for opportunity.
And they went all in.
Well, not at first, right? They started by distributing video games.
So from fertilizer to floppy disks, cartridges.
That's the pivot. And they were smart about it, undercut the competition, offered lower prices.
Classic disruption.
Yeah, exactly. And it worked. They quickly became the biggest distributor of video games in France.
But they didn't stop there.
Ambition, right.
Yeah.
They weren't content with just selling the games.
They wanted to create.
They wanted to make them.
So they started investing in their own studios.
And they did it in style, too.
This is the Chateau period we're talking about.
The chateau. It's almost too perfect, right? They set up shop in this beautiful chateau in Brittany.
That sounds like a dream.
Right. But dreams get expensive.
Reality sets in.
The upkeep of a chateau, oof. They ended up moving most of their developers to Paris.
Makes sense.
Pragmatic, but still, during that time in that chateau, they found Michel Ancel.
Michel Ancel, the legend.
The man behind their first big, and I mean big, hit.
Rayman, what a classic.
A game changer, really. Released in '95. Rayman was like a breath of fresh air for platforming games.
The visuals, the characters, so unique.
Yeah, totally quirky. And the gameplay, it was challenging, but in a good way, you know? It really resonated with people.
I remember playing it, yeah, a real turning point for Ubisoft.
It showed the world they could make games, not just sell them.
They weren't just a distributor anymore.
Exactly. They were developers, they were contenders.
And they weren't afraid to experiment either.
Oh, they tried all sorts of stuff.
Rainbow Six, right? Tactical shooters.
Totally different vibe.
And even, get this, racing games.
Street Racer.
They were all over the place.
In a good way, though, they were figuring out their strengths.
Building their portfolio.
Which is, you know, interesting to think about compared to Ubisoft today.
That's a whole other conversation.
Yeah, maybe for later. But the point is, those early days, they were crucial.
They were finding their footing.
Exactly. And then the early 2000s hit.
Things started heating up.
Heating up is an understatement.
This is when they acquired Red Storm Entertainment, right?
Huge move. Brought them the Tom Clancy games.
That's a powerhouse franchise.
Oh, massive. It gave them a foothold in the U.S. market, aligned them with a brand that was, you know, all about military action, espionage.
Splinter Cell, that was their answer to Metal Gear Solid, right?
Exactly. It was like, bam, Ubisoft's a major player, no doubt.
And they weren't done.
Not even close.
They acquired the Learning Company's entertainment division.
Which meant?
They got Myst.
Yep.
And Prince of Persia.
Boom.
That's when things really took off.
This is where the golden age begins.
Their reimagining of Prince of Persia, the Sands of Time trilogy.
A masterpiece.
Truly critically acclaimed, commercial success, introduced all these innovative mechanics.
The manipulation, the acrobatics.
The visuals were stunning.
And the story, man, for the time, it was deep, mature.
It had this atmosphere so unique, I still remember playing it.
Oh, yeah, totally immersive. And it's no coincidence that the success of Prince of Persia led to
Assassin's Creed.
the big one.
It's wild to think the original concept was a Prince of Persia game.
With an assassin bodyguard.
Imagine that.
Crazy, right?
Different timeline.
But they went a different route, a whole new franchise.
And the rest, as they say, is history.
The first Assassin's Creed, it had its flaws.
Sure. But it introduced this world, right?
Yeah.
Historical conspiracies, the Tarkor.
The hidden blade combat, it was like nothing we'd seen before.
And then Assassin's Creed 2.
Ezio Auditore.
The icon.
That trilogy. Over 55 million units sold.
Global phenomenon, Assassin's Creed. It was Ubisoft at the top of their game.
But as with all things, right, what goes up?
What's come down?
And Ubisoft's story, well, it takes some interesting turns.
That's for next time.
Stay tuned for part 2 of our deep dive into Ubisoft.
It's funny, isn't it, how success can kind of, I don't know, breed complacency.
It's a trap, for sure.
Even for a company like Ubisoft,
Eh?
ambitious as they are. Yeah, and you see it right after the Ezio trilogy.
They found this formula, this magic formula.
And it worked. Like gangbusters.
So they stuck with it.
Maybe a little too long.
Maybe.
It's that balance, isn't it?
Yeah, you refine what works.
You build on the successes.
But you got to keep pushing, too.
Innovating, surprising players.
And I think for a while there, Ubisoft, they struggled with that.
And then 2014?
Watch Dogs.
Oof, that was a turning point.
For Ubisoft's reputation, yeah.
And for the industry, I think.
The downgrade.
The infamous Watch Dogs downgrade.
A textbook example, really.
Of overpromising.
And under-delivering.
That E3 demo, it looked incredible.
Cutting edge.
The graphics, the gameplay.
And then the game actually came out.
And it was.
Not quite the same.
Not even close.
Gamers felt misled.
Rightfully so. It wasn't just a tweak here and there.
It impacted the whole experience.
It really did, and it raised questions, right?
Big questions about transparency in game marketing.
Honesty, the whole thing.
Trust was broken.
Between Ubisoft and the players.
A lot of trust.
And then, around the same time,
Yeah, controversies.
the workplace culture issues.
The accusations, the misconduct, the toxicity. It was a mess.
It really tarnished their image, made you wonder what was going on behind the scenes.
It did. It really did. And all of this, it coincided with this period where their games...
They felt stale.
Formulaic, even the good ones.
Rainbow Six Siege, that was a huge success.
Yeah, but it couldn't erase the feeling that something was off.
Like they'd lost their way a bit.
I remember playing Assassin's Creed Unity.
Oh yeah, revolutionary Paris, so much potential.
But it was a buggy mess at launch.
Rushed, unpolished.
It was. It really was. And it felt like a symptom of this bigger trend.
Quantity over quality.
Exactly. They were pumping out games left and right.
But sacrificing polish, innovation.
And they tried branching out, right? New IPs.
The Division.
But it didn't quite land.
Didn't have the same impact.
It was like they were throwing things at the wall.
Hoping something would stick.
But without that same level of care.
Attention to detail, that spark, you know.
The thing that made them special.
And then...
Oh boy, here we go.
Skull and Bones.
The pirate game that never was.
It became a joke. Almost.
That years in development hell.
Delay after delay.
And when it finally launched...
It was a whimper.
Yeah, it didn't live up to the hype.
It felt like a missed opportunity.
A huge one.
It's ironic, isn't it?
Yeah, how'd they go from revolutionizing open worlds to...
Being criticized for them?
Empty, repetitive.
Like they fell victim to their own formula?
It's a cautionary tale, really.
They found a way to make games that sold.
But they lost sight of what made them great.
The innovation, the creativity.
The risk-taking.
That's the Ubisoft we all fell in love with.
And somewhere along the way, it got lost.
It was pretty clear, right? Late 2010s, early 2020s. Ubisoft was at a crossroads.
Crossroads, yeah, turning point.
And he needed to adapt.
Recapture the magic somehow.
But how do you do that?
Right.
How do you turn around a company that big?
A ship that size, yeah, it's tough.
It's like steering a giant cruise liner.
Takes time, lots of inertia.
And they did try things, right? We saw the shift towards live service games.
Rainbow Six Siege.
A massive success. Got to give them credit for that.
Oh, absolutely. Siege was a turning point, showed they could still innovate.
Create those engaging, long-lasting multiplayer experiences.
Build a community around a game.
And they tried to diversify, right? Immortals, Phoenix Rising.
Yeah, Immortals, that was a breath of fresh air.
A bit of a Breath of the Wild vibe, some people said.
It had that charm, definitely, but it didn't quite hit the same way commercially.
Didn't have the same reach as Assassin's Creed or something.
It makes you wonder, maybe they should focus on fewer games.
Higher quality, maybe?
Possibly. And then there was, well, the whole blockchain experiment.
Ubisoft Quartz.
With the NFTs.
Not their best moment.
No, not really. It felt like, I don't know, chasing a trend.
A cash grab, some people said.
Yeah, the backlash was pretty intense.
Gamers felt like they were out of touch.
Yeah, it definitely hurt their reputation, reinforced that perception.
And profits over players.
Exactly. 1 step forward, 2 steps back kind of thing.
Delays, cancellations, underwhelming releases. It was a rough time.
Not their best years, that's for sure.
But there were bright spots, right?
Oh, absolutely. Assassin's Creed Origins, Odyssey.
Those felt like real attempts to revitalize the franchise.
They took a risk, went in a new direction.
RPG elements, massive open worlds, ancient Egypt, Greece.
It was bold, alienated some fans, sure, but it brought new ones in.
Successful enough to warrant sequels.
Showed they weren't afraid to experiment with their biggest franchises.
But then, 2024, another stumble.
Star Wars Outlaws.
So much potential.
On paper, it sounded amazing,
Beloved IP. Beautiful open world.
but it just didn't deliver.
Felt hollow, repetitive, like a checklist of Ubisoft tropes.
It lacked that spark, that soul.
The Star Wars magic wasn't there.
It's a wake-up call, really.
Stock prices tanked. Investors panicked.
Buyout rumors started swirling.
It was a dark time. And here we are, a year later. Ubisoft's still trying to pick up the pieces.
Assassin's Creed Shadows, delayed.
The future's uncertain.
They've announced restructuring, a new focus on players, quality over quantity.
But are those just words?
Time will tell.
Gamers are cautiously optimistic, I think, but they've been hurt before.
Ubisoft has a lot to prove.
They need to earn back that trust, that respect.
But they can't afford to stay still. The industry's moving fast.
They need to adapt. Find that spark again.
The innovation, the creativity that made them great.
They've given us some amazing games over the years.
Some truly memorable experiences.
And I think everyone wants to see them succeed, find their way back.
It's a reminder that even giants can fall.
But they can also rise again.
It's a story of resilience, adaptation.
The next chapter is still being written.
And we'll be watching, eager to see where it goes.
And that's a wrap on our deep dive into the world of Ubisoft. Thanks for joining us. We'll see you next time for another journey into the games industry.